Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be doing my lovely girl Brittany's nails. We are doing a full set on her, so we are starting off from scratch. I am here prepping her natural nail using my not polished Efile. Remember that this one is a strong one, so we're going to be bumping it down to 3000 RPMs for our prep. Along with that, I'm using a small mandrel bit with a medium grit sanding band, and I'm just going to be focusing on buffing off that shine from her natural nail. This is called etching the natural nail, so we're just going to simply give it a nice little scratch to the surface, and that is going to ultimately help all the products adhere to it. If I were to go in with the product right on top of her natural nail, the oils that she already has on her natural nail and that we typically produce on our nails is going to definitely make your nails pop off. So if you are a beginner and you notice that the nails just are not lasting, you want to make sure that you are prepping the nail properly, and simply etching the nail helps a lot, but we're going to go ahead and add the little extra steps as well that you might need. Do note that we do not add any type of cuticle work. She has requested that ever since her allergic reaction, which is completely fine. So we're going to be skipping that, but you can definitely do that, and I show that process on a bunch of my other videos. Now here I'm just applying the tips. These are the universal tips from Not Polish. I just applied it with some glue, and next I'm taking a 5-in-1 bit and I'm just going to blend that tip and pretty much just flatten it out a little bit, especially on those edges because those tend to stick out on the sides, and we're just going to be blending that very carefully. I'm just staying on the tip. Do note that I am not filing on her natural nail using that bit. Now I'm going to be taking a hand file. This is the Not Polish hand file, and I'm just simply going to be filing those sides. I want to make sure that these sides of the tip are nice and flush to her natural nail. Sometimes they can be a little bit oversized, or one side can hang off a little bit depending on how well you place it on there. So I'm just going in and making sure that they are nice and straight, and then kind of just making the stiletto shape a little bit more stiletto for my liking. Now adding it on to our prep process, you want to dust off that excess dust, but I'm also going to be taking a lint free wipe and a little bit of Young Nail Swipe to fully remove that dust, but also dehydrate her natural nail. You can always use a nail dehydrator as well, but this one seems to work really good. Next, I'm going to be taking the acrylic primer from Kiara Sky. This is HEMA free, so this is the primer that I like to use on her. It has a gel-like consistency, so do note that it's a little bit different than other primers that are typically just simple liquid. So if you get kind of weirded out like I did, it is completely the way that the product is. So it honestly works really good. It just takes a little bit of getting used to, and I think honestly at this point I'm still not used to that. Now my girl did request a milky white, but a very light milky white. So I'm going to be taking this very see-through white color that I have, and I'm just going to be adding a very small amount on the base of the nail. So it is the thinnest amount so that you can have that super see-through look to it. You see how here I kind of applied it a little bit on the thicker side, but as I start wiping it down, it gets a little bit more see-through. That is what I want. That is what she wanted. So that is what we're going with. Now, if you want to build up a little bit more opaque, you can always add the actual amount of acrylic that you need on there. But again, since she wants it nice and see-through, I'm just gonna go in with a nice and thin layer. I could have mixed my own really sheer white, but I have so many mixed products that I've done for clients and I only use once, and my jars are pretty much all the way gone. So in order to just save myself a little bit of storage on another powder, I opted to go this route. So we're just going to go in with that very thin layer, and then I'm actually going to be adding the bulk acrylic in clear. That way it gives the perfect look that she is going for. So again, very small. I am using a pretty wet bead because I want to just be able to really blend that out and add a very thin layer. You can see kind of from the side here on this nail where there's really zero structure, and if I were to just leave it like this, it would definitely break so fast. And I'm actually not going all the way up to the cuticle either because I wanted that nice little natural portion of her nail to kind of see through and it almost look very natural. Now I'm going to be going in with my bulk acrylic. This is just a clear acrylic from Not Polish, and we're just going to be going in. I am using a Kiara Sky Monomer, and this brush is in a size 12 for reference. I'm just gonna be applying that, adding extra thickness because her nails are long and they are stiletto. So you wanna always make that nice and bulky, and she does request for me to add a little bit more thickness than I typically would at the tip, as she tends to kind of break those off. So we're just gonna try to minimize that by adding a little bit more acrylic than we typically would. Now, acrylic application is one of those things that you could either really master or you just feel like you kind of wing it every single time. And I feel like I've kind of winged it every single time. So I pretty much just go in with as many beads that I feel like I need. You can always up your size, and that way you can minimize the amount of beads you're picking up, especially depending on the length of the nail. I tend to kind of go back and forth between a bigger brush and a smaller one, just depending on if I'm doing just a simple fill or if the nails are smaller. But I will say that I have definitely gotten more used to a smaller brush, so that is what I'm comfortable with. But I am one of those that believes that you could use 3 beads, you can use 4, 5, 6, 7 if you need it, or you can use 1 if you're comfortable with it. And I tend to definitely use more than what people recommend for you to use, and that is just simply how it works. You kind of just go with your own way, and whatever works will be the best way. Of course, there are ways of making things go a little bit quicker, but if you're not comfortable with it, definitely just do whatever you are okay with and what you are comfortable doing. So here we're just going with that cuticle bead, applying it and blending it downward towards the tip. So I like to start with my first bead right in the middle section, pretty much where the nail meets the natural nail, and then I start working that product down. I'm trying to keep that thickness, so notice how I'm just using very small tapping motions and very, very gentle pulls with the acrylic, and it starts naturally kind of coming downwards. And then I'm also moving the finger to work to my advantage. So here I need the product to flow down towards the tip, so I am holding the finger more downwards than I was at first. And that just helps kind of bring that product down. Gravity does its thing, and it makes your life a little bit easier. Next, I'm going to be taking another bead, going right on top of that one, and for this one, again, holding it downwards, and I'm just going to start blending it very, very quickly and keeping that thickness at the top portion of the bead that we laid. For the cuticle area, I like to place it pretty close, but I'm still gonna hold the finger down so that it doesn't flow into the cuticle. I push it gently up and let gravity do its thing, and then you just blend it out. That's pretty much what we're gonna continue to do on the rest of the nails, and then we're gonna get into filing. Once everything is nice and dry, I'm going to go ahead and start our filing process. For that, again, my not polished Efile. This time I have it at about 9,000 RPMs. And I'm going to be taking the Pro 5-in-1 bit from Kiara Sky, and I'm just using that tip portion since it is fine grit. And it's just going to help blend that acrylic into the natural nail. And then I'm also going to be using that on the rest of the nail. I like to go vertically up and down whenever I'm doing long nails. It just works a little bit easier for me, and you don't have to worry about bringing the bit out so that it reaches the whole nail. You can always use your hand file, and I do a lot of the time, just depending on what I'm doing and how I feel that day. Today I decided to use my e-file, but a lot of the time I will switch over to my hand file once I need to file the rest of the nail. And if you are a beginner nail tech, definitely recommend using a hand file. It helps you see a lot easier and a lot better where you need to continue to file. With an e-file, it typically is a little bit harder because it doesn't leave any type of different color in the nail when you are filing. And with a hand file, if you've ever noticed, it leaves white little streaks or scratch marks, and that's always a good indicator that you are filing that product down. And then if you see any of the areas that do not show that white scratched area, that is an indicator that you need to file a little bit more to even it all out. Once you have that nice and even white cast on the whole nail, that is a good indicator that you have filed everything super smooth and everything is nice and even. Now I'm pretty sure I completely forgot to press record when I was filing with the hand file, but I did go ahead and sharpen up those nails just a smidge more. We're going in with a buffer now, and I'm going to be buffing the surface of the nail to make a nice and smooth canvas for our nail art. We're going to be doing tons of hand painted nail art, so I want to make sure that her nails are super smooth. You can always go in with a top coat before you start your nail art process. That way everything is extra smooth, and it honestly helps with a gel paint, gel polish glide on there. But I just always feel like it's an extra layer and an extra step that honestly sometimes I do not feel like doing. So she did go ahead and wash her hands. You can always use a lint-free wipe and a little bit of young nail swipe. And I'm going in with our nail art. We're doing a red and white, peppermint, snowflakes. We're doing all kinds of fun nail art. So we are starting off with our white. I went ahead and on the middle finger, I did our little circles. Those are gonna be little peppermints. And then I'm going, since I'm already using white, I'm gonna be adding the white on the pinky, and it's pretty much like half of the nail diagonally and infilling the rest of that. We're also gonna be doing a peppermint type of design on that one, but I'm starting off with white as our base for these designs. I'm just infilling the rest of that. For reference, I'm using the Veeda Bella brushes throughout this whole nail set. So I'm switching back and forth from the long liner and the short liner. I don't think I used the micro liner on her nails, but I did use the Oopsie brush quite a bit. Y'all will be able to see that during the process. Now for our little peppermint, I like to do kind of like a little squiggle for my base design. And then we are going to add our little swirls, if that kind of makes sense. So one curves out towards the right side and the other one curves out to the left side, and it does kind of like a very, very light wiggle shape. And then we're going to be doing thinner lines as well in between that, and then thicker ones, just pretty much alternating them however you feel, and as many as you feel would look good. Now do note that during this entire process I am curing it in the light for 60 seconds. So I pretty much did my white base, cured that in the light for 60 seconds while I was working on the other hand. I know I'm not showing it on camera, but it does happen and it is needed, especially with using gel polish and gel paint. Now that I'm done with those little peppermints, we're going to be doing something similar on the pinky. But we're just going to be doing like little pizza slices, if that makes sense. Little triangles or whatever shape you think these are. And I'm going to be doing the red, same, starting off with 2 lines and then just infilling the center of that. Right here, I felt like I needed a little bit more white all the way down towards the tip. So I'm taking the Oopsie brush from Veeda Bella and I'm using the pointy side of it to easily kind of wipe that off. And then we're just gonna go back in and fix that. I wanted it to be just touching right at the tip. Now again, I like to just go ahead and use my colors as I'm going. So since I'm on red, I'm going to go back in and do another red design. For the ring finger, we're going to be doing like a half Frenchie. So I did my line down the center all the way to the tip, and then we're doing our half smile line, and then very quickly infilling the rest of that portion. So I did take the Just Red from Veeda Bella gel polish, and I mixed the smallest amount of black into it. So it was a little bit more of a deeper red versus the red that we have in our collection. So I'm just infilling that, and again, remember to cure as needed. I sometimes cure right after I do one nail, and sometimes I just go ahead and do all 5 and then cure in the light, but always do what is comfortable for you. Now we're switching over to the other hand to show you the plaid design that we're going to be doing. You can always go in with a jelly polish first and do your crisscross pattern, but I like to be a little bit more complicated and I like to challenge my skills sometimes. So I went in the hard route and I did my darker boxes first, or my darker squares, and then I cured in the light, and now we're going in with the jelly polish and doing our overlapping design, and it looks so freaking cute. I love this. But again, if you want to make your life a little bit easier, just do the jelly polish portion first. So you would pretty much do your little checker design, and then you can always infill the darker portions with an actual black gel paint. That would again be a little bit smarter, a little bit easier, and everything would come out a little bit more even. But sometimes by sometimes I mean a lot of the times, I do things the harder route. I'm starting to go back in with all the little cute details. So for the pinky, we're going to be doing half of a snowflake coming out of our little peppermint design. I am using the short liner for this, and I'm doing 3 lines and then the little lines for our snowflake. You can always get very fancy with snowflakes, or you can keep it nice and simple like I did. I knew that I was going to be doing so much nail art on her nails, so I ended up keeping it pretty simple, and I think I did pretty much the same type of snowflake on the ones that I did snowflakes on, because again, your girl was getting tired. It definitely can be very time consuming to do this type of nail art, so always keep that in mind. And if you can, just go ahead and use some nail decals and make your life a little bit easier. Now I did mess up on that little triangle right there, so again, oopsie brush with the pointy side, a little bit of young nail swipe, and I just went ahead and cleaned it off very easily, and we're gonna go back in and fix that, because although sometimes I don't feel like fixing things, it is necessary. It definitely is for your peace of mind. Just go ahead and fix it, girl. Now for the ring finger, we're going to be doing another snowflake, and it's going to be overlapping our plaid design, but also the negative side of the nail. So we are keeping it nice and simple again. For these little lines, I actually made it nice and round, so it kind of looked like a little bit thicker, if you would say that. And then I'm going to be adding dots here and there to just give it a little bit of extraness to it and differentiate it from the one on the pinky. Again, white gel paint from Veeda Bella, and then cure as you feel it is needed.
Te tengo una propuesta, y en tu mirada ya puedo ver la respuesta. Deja que los cuerpos hablen, no hace falta más. Si ya muy bien tú sabes lo que va a pasar. Tú me pones la mente a volar. Yo te caché la señal, no hicieron falta palabras. Fue un lenguaje corporal. Todo fluyó natural, de lejos se notaba la energía sexual. Mami, ¿qué más? Hay algo en ti que me tiene mal.
Now for the index finger, we're going to be doing a sweater nail. You can get super creative with this, or you can keep it super basic like I am going to. I was already pretty tired when I got to this nail, so I was like, we're just going to make it really, really cute but super simple. And it just looks so good. The way it turned out was perfection. So we're going to be doing hearts. lines, dots, more lines, and so much cuteness. And you pretty much just do a portion of nail art and then you mirror it the same on the bottom. I left out the snowflake portion because y'all already saw me draw a snowflake and it's the same process, but I'm doing hearts and then one tiny one at the bottom since she does have stiletto nails. We're gonna be doing some dots and then running our liner brush right through the center of it to look like a nice connected little detail. And I am in fact using a bit because I still don't own any dotting tools. I don't know why, I just feel like it's not necessary. And then I'm just taking my liner brush, running that through, and then we're gonna go in with all the red details and it just looks so cute. And y'all cannot tell me you guys are not proud of her for not doing green again. I was very shocked and I asked her like 4 times, are you sure we don't want to throw green in here? But she said nope, and we're just doing red and white, and I love how they turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all the little details on that. We're going to be going in with our top coat and then add the final touches to it. So stain resistant top coat from Young Nails, adding a thin layer of that. Always make sure that you give it a nice full cure at the end as well. And then going in with your top coat. She does smoke, so we're going to nicely protect those nails with this bomb top coat. If y'all haven't tried it, definitely check it out. And then we're going to be rubbing off that tacky layer with Young Nails Swipe. And then I'm actually going to be adding a little bit of sugared nail art on top of those little peppermints. I'm simply going to be going in back with our white gel paint, and I am using the small liner for this, adding tiny little like icicle droplets, snow kind of coming down, and I'm going to be sugaring it with some sparkly white glitter. It is microfine glitter, so it's not going to be super chunky on there. And then we're going to fully cure that in the light for another 60 seconds, especially because you are layering a powder on top of that. Make sure you are fully curing. Even give it a second round of cure if you feel like you don't know if it fully cured. I'm adding little dots here and there on the nail as well, which are also going to be sugared. And it just looks so good. But that pretty much concludes today's video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a ton. And I will see you guys next time.